You're live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Sunderland Board of Selectmen, if we can call it to order at 7:04. First order of business is to turn the cameras right back at the console and look at FCAT interns who are soon going to be running the show. That's FCAT, F-C-A-T. They can be reached at. Anyway, short introduction to yourselves for the cameras.
You're on.
You're on. There you go.
Now you know why they're behind the camera.
Yeah.
They're from Sunderland too, so.
Even better.
There you go.
We've got tonight the beginning of our transition from STC and Tom to FCAT helping out with the orchestration and directing, and we've been told that it's either Hawaii Five-0 or Mission Impossible will be our opening music when they're done.
Well, actually, Tom Zimnowski's trying to put the Three Stooges and or Looney Tunes up there too. So.
I like that. Marvin the Martian, here we go.
Probably more appropriate.
We're gonna start tonight. We're gonna have a fair amount of discussion about regional EMS. People have been following the papers, understand what we're doing. We're gonna have some board updates, some correspondence. Announce that in 5 years or so, it's gonna be 300 years for the town of Sunderland. And we'll talk a little bit about the fall festival, some of the mechanics around that. We could start with the approval of the. We could start with the review of the minutes from September 9th.
Motion.
Second. We have a motion made and seconded. These are the minutes of September 9th. All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0, Margaret. Okay. A week ago, we were about to, we actually postponed to a date to be determined, a special town meeting centered around a couple of warrant articles on a joint multi-town EMS. That's emergency services, shared ambulance service, essentially. The week prior to our meeting last Monday, there was a series of meetings, including a meeting in Deerfield on Friday, and out of that meeting came what can be a parallel path for Deerfield to take a look at its own ambulance service. Over the course of this last week, this board, as well as a board in Whately, have had time to digest what the impacts of those decisions in around Deerfield were. And I'd like to ask the prerogative of the board for us to call a special town meeting for, mid-October to talk about the regional EMS.
I think it would be a good idea.
Tom?
That gives us enough time.
Look, nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is that there need to be some further negotiations on some of the fine points in the understanding. It's interesting about what's being said in the newspaper and on the radio. I don't quite agree with it, because I think if you talk to people involved, that's not what they're saying in the newsprint. So I don't know. I just think that from the people I talk to that have been involved the last 2 years in negotiation of this, regional ambulance, if you're looking to upgrade our system so that we will have a 24/7 paramedic service for our residents, this is the most dependable method and most cost-effective plan that we can come up with at this time. And it's been shown that.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think we are right postponing, because there was items that came up that still need to be answered. And if we had gone to town meeting and things had changed later on, we would not have had the opportunity to change those. So it was fine to change. We do have to move on. I hope, if there's residents in Sunderland, we're still planning on a public hearing, I believe.
Yes.
That we have an opportunity to get together. I know Bob Ahern been involved with EMS a long time, and the problems that have been identified are not going to go away, and they may go away for a short time if you get some new blood for a short period of time, but typically they leave after that settles itself out after a year or two. So.
Right. And all the underlying issues are still there, and they won't change no matter how you try to shake it up. All those problems are there.
That's a good point.
This is just a patch of fog, and we got our fog lights out and our fog horns ready, and we're just steaming through it, so.
I like that. It's a good analogy.
The sonar's on.
Chief, should we have a special town meeting
Sonar
I'm ready.
for fog?
for fog?
For fog.
Well, you know, you don't want to ground or anything, you know. It's not an Italian cruise
Captain
line.
Chiletto?
Yes,
This is
exactly.
a
That's what I
ode
was
to
just
the
to say. It's
Concordia.
not, yes, it's not an Italian cruise line, you know.
Oh, boy.
I like it.
I hope we can get through our troubles that arose the last couple of weeks with the South Deerfield Board and members having their own ideas. Hopefully they'll come to some collaborative compromise. Tom
Yep.
wants to read the article from Saturday. but,
Yeah.
Saved it.
No, I got, so we can talk about
There
it
you go.
tomorrow night.
There you go.
I think the plan we came up with is the best plan, and we sat in Whately a couple weeks ago and voted, wasn't unanimously, but we voted to go with the 24/7, budget for the 7 or 8 full-time people. So,
Well, if I could add one thing, now you're making me add this, and I didn't want to, but I will. The vote was not unanimous to go with that option.
I said that.
There was I understand, there was a plan that some fire or EMS director who happened to come from this side of the river, I don't know what that man's name is, that was $150,000 less and provided the same service. We are overridden by somebody on the other side of the river that was comparing it, but now I know why they did that, so.
It was actually more of a, it wasn't even a vote, too. It was more of a,
It was a straw vote,
yeah, like a,
A consensus.
right, a
because
consensus.
an
everybody that
incorrect
walked in
vote.
the door had a chance to vote.
It was incorrect vote because I didn't vote.
I've
One
reserved,
abstention.
I've reserved the elementary school gym for Friday, October 18th as a first choice, and then as a second choice, Wednesday, October 16th.
So we have 2 dates available to us, 18th and 16th or the 18th?
Yes.
Okay. Program of the board, historically Fridays?
Did we talk to the town clerk?
Oh, it's just
Yes.
Saturday.
And
Yeah.
what would be the best for the town clerk? 'Cause I know
A
we.
Friday.
That's fine, then let's make it the 18th, please.
That kind of falls in line with our pattern of doing Fridays, too.
And the only reason I say that because the town clerk has to be open so many days for
Yes.
voting registration and.
Yes, she'd be
and-
open on a Tuesday evening.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's why I asked about the town clerk.
Sure.
Yeah.
All of the inputs.
Your,
going in.
the special town meeting calendar is in your packet, too. If it was for a scheduled October 18th meeting.
Okay, I'm fine.
So I'm hearing the prerogative of the board is a special town meeting to discuss and hopefully support regional EMS efforts that are only 3 years in the making. And a target date of October 18th, Friday, 7 PM at the elementary school.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Discussion? If not, remember, we have announced a special town meeting, postponed to a date to be announced.
Which you do.
This actually
This is
is
the
the
announcement.
change of the date.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Right, so you can open your warrant and announce a closing date tonight if you'd like.
Yep.
And that has to be no sooner than Monday, September 23rd, and for business purposes at 4 PM.
Okay, so we have a motion made to set the date for our postponed special town meeting for Friday, October 18th, 7 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Now, we have a warrant that we can keep open. We opened it the last meeting as well.
Mm.
We have an effective closing date, right? Last date of post is actually October 4th,
That's right.
and that means September 30th is actually the final review.
That's right, it's your final review, and you'd sign the warrant on the 30th.
We have a motion made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0, please.
To close it, which date?
30th.
30th.
Close it the 30th, okay.
Now, again, as we go through the special town meeting part, there are still open items for all 3 communities. There's a meeting tomorrow night, 7 PM at the Whately Center School, and it is again, all 3 communities, EMS professionals, and there is an agenda. We have an agenda items that include our last action items. We have an IMA that's been out for legal review, and hopefully that IMA can be dealt with. To date, we've agreed on option 4. To date, we've agreed on the temporary housing of the 2 ambulances. And to date, we've identified that IMA. When the IMA gets done tomorrow, staffing can be done tomorrow, and we can largely be ready to develop the final appropriation values.
I don't know if I agree with that, Mr. Chair. The last I read of an email, wasn't Deerfield now gonna send the IMA to their legal to review it also?
Oh, yeah.
They can do it on their time. Our legal counsel has,
Right, I understand,
oh,
They want another
to
review.
cha-
I think they wanted to do that anyway.
but I understand that,
Yeah,
but
that may-
Scott says we'll be all set, not tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, it may not be all set.
That's true, they haven't, because they haven't
and-
looked
There
at
may be
it.
continued negotiations about the IMA.
Correct.
the board will definitely want to see Deerfield's legal review as well, as soon as possible. They had it in their hands the end of last week, so it should be in their legal counsel's hands at this point.
I just think we need to, tomorrow night, we have to make it very well known that we have set a town meeting date.
Right.
I don't know how they do it across the other side of the river, but according to state statute, we have to follow certain requirements, and we have to have the final, everything together, budget, IMA,
By the 30th.
all of that. If
Right.
there's questions about assets, whatever now, it has to be into us by a certain date, date certain. You pick the date, Margaret.
It has to be before the 30th. The board signs on the 30th. I think that a reasonable date would be,
September 30th?
Oh, that's our signature date.
23rd or so? Because you need to be able to put the information together by the 30th, right?
yes.
Okay.
2
That-
weeks.
So that's, if you could you send an email out tomorrow morning to the other boards of selectmen, what we're doing tonight, and let them know we have to have total package together by that date, okay? So they know?
Before the 30th.
We want
Oh,
everything
yeah.
by but they need to know for tomorrow night.
Yeah, okay.
They can't come in for a 5-minute meeting tomorrow night. They have to get down and raise their hand, yay or nay on certain items tomorrow night, which may be scary.
Make a decision.
It's down to brass tacks.
Okay.
I
I
do
will,
have
I
a
will,
date.
put a date out there for, Deerfield.
We think about that. We need to have our warrant review, and it's gotta go out to council. So if our signature is on the 30th, we've got to have it the week prior.
That's right. The 23rd would be appropriate for this
Okay.
board to make its final decision, so.
Let's run forward with the
September 23rd.
Run forward the 23rd.
That's
Pretty
like
easy.
next week.
I don't care. I just know that if they expect us to go to town meeting, I don't wanna be known as a town that's causing this backlash.
If there are any differences between the legal counsels for each of the towns, they're gonna have to be hashed out, and they have to be allowed a couple of days to do that. So the 23rd really should be the latest.
Yep.
Sunderland has final information.
Perfect. We can get that in the form of, that's only a week from today.
That's a week. It's a full week.
They have to work tomorrow, you have to work tomorrow night.
Well, that's the whole point, right?
We're supposed to be meeting to work.
That's, and really, if you step back and take a breather for a moment and put aside the recent obfuscations, we really should be well
What kind of
along.
stations?
We should be
What the
well.
heck did you just say? See, now you got on the right side, I can hear you. Have you been losing all those words before and I've been missing them?
See, put aside the recent, I'll just call them obfuscations.
Okay.
And, we
Scott, can I see
really
your thing so I can
are
talk about
fairly
that
well
word?
along. Or as anybody who has kids knows, Sir Topham had, there was confusion and delay, and we now need to resolve that and move on
Nice.
and keep the train on schedule,
Keep the train on schedule.
Keep the boat through the fog, right?
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, make sure you got the sonar going.
The only thing we need now is an
Full steam
automobile
ahead.
reference. We'd have trains, planes,
That's true.
Planes.
ships.
I think it's
Don't
great.
text while driving.
That's
all.
exactly right. Okay, so we can set our goal for these pieces of information for the 23rd. Again, we got a warrant to develop. We have a date specific now.
There's also the issue of the public forum.
Yes, we'll have to pick that day too.
Hang on. If we are, think about this public forum, Tom. Well, let's nail that down here, put out dates as well. I say that only because if we have in front of us the 23rd of being the goal for delivery of our final, then, and the October for public town meeting, the week of October 1st for a forum?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The only thing we'd have to do is check on venue availability, but yeah, that seems to make sense.
Right, Tom? right? Sometime in the first week of October. It's the
That would work
30th,
with Whately's planned town meeting
Right.
timeline too.
30th through the 4th, somewhere in there. The only date that is, no?
Do you wanna do it the same night as the selectmen's meeting beforehand, or?
Well, in a perfect world, we'd have all three towns available and represented. We had talked at one point about using the Frontier cafeteria,
Oh, you mean a 3-town?
have a public forum. Again, the risk of having three independent forums is you have three independent conversations,
Right.
three independent perspectives.
And that's, you have to stay on message and all be on the same page, so.
So maybe we can search out, Margaret, if it's all right tomorrow, if you reach out to the high school and see if they've got dates available that first week for, I think, in discussion prior, using the auditorium, it's a little too big for this kind of event. You don't expect to have 600 people show up.
You may.
I don't know. Okay. we can
Okay.
Reach out and see what dates and what facilities are available.
Would October 7th be open too, just in case? I just,
You work on it, don't
I
worry
will,
about
I just, yeah, I'm trying to think,
just
I'm
get done, Margaret.
thinking of
Monday the
something I
7th.
haven't already sent out.
Margaret, just
Coordinating
get
is
it done.
difficult.
Agreed.
Okay,
I'm sure
So first week of October.
first
this
week
will
of
be like
October.
coming up with a thing between the Soviet Union or Russia and the United States about Syrian nerve gas, so.
Maybe.
Actually, that might be, well,
Might be easier.
I was,
Okay, so effective date, special town meeting, Friday the 18th of October, 7 PM at the elementary school. And then we're gonna have our target warrant closure for the 30th to be signed. Okay, next up, board updates. Thanks, chief.
Okay.
So David and I were at a four-town meeting last week at Frontier. Talk about capital expenditure process.
oh, yes, that's right.
And there was a fair amount of, I think, good discussion about the practical pieces, after we get a little bit of a lecture at the beginning, but that's a whole different, that was just form. But once the conversation opened up, I thought that was very, very productive. Out of that meeting is gonna come one working group, I think, on the capital definition and process. And then there was a discussion about revisiting, and Tom, this would be your second favorite subject of the night, revisiting of K through 6, K through 12 regionalization, regional schools. And it was interesting, the sentiment that was expressed, probably from both sides, both from the administration and the Frontier School Committee, as well as members of boards of selectmen of the member towns and finance committee members of the member towns, about their history with that kind of a discussion and how challenging it can be. And so I'm not sure if that's good, that group is going to be kicking off, but I do believe there was a volunteer sheet that was sent around on the capital definition and then capital process for the four towns. And there are some signatures on that, and hopefully that group gets off to a relatively quick start.
I'll let you know about the other one, because I'm on the other one.
You're on the other
so,
one?
Yeah, so.
So actually gonna have the discussion about regional?
Well, yeah, I think we need to take the approach, throw out the old regionalization model and look at, because I think we've all looked at it from a strict dollars and cents point of view, and it doesn't seem to pan out in that respect.
Okay.
But that doesn't, we need to basically pitch the old model and see what we can do and try to, I hate this phrase sometimes, but I'll use it again, to how to think outside the box and think of some different ways, because, you know, we all acknowledge that population's going down. We're gonna be confronted with issues, and, you know, and even Whately said, hey, you know, we've got, what, 40-some-odd% of their
Yeah,
school population is choice. So you're looking at like a, you know, only a 60% or 60-some-odd% native population. So, you know, how are you, and if the trend continues, what do you do about that?
Right.
Because you can't just use that to keep yourself open. And then, so it's a difficult topic, but it's something that we're gonna have to figure out a way to deal with it, so.
I think someone in that meeting, in that part of the discussion, if my memory is right, said that, you know, maybe the term regionalization has got a bad connotation.
Oh, it definitely has
Remember that.
over time, right.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is when the marketing team comes in and says, all right, we're pitching it. We're
collaborative
gonna
it
come up
is.
with a new name, you know, and call it something different. But we have to look at other options and stuff like that. That we owe it to to everybody to do
Well,
that.
the only problem is that you're not talking a true regionalization slash collaboration slash pick the word.
Right, it might be
If you're
something a
really
little
looking
different.
at true collaboration, regionalization, whatever, then you have to look at what your assets are.
Oh, you,
And the best
yes,
way,
you have to.
and I can guarantee you that there's not one town in the 4 district that's gonna give up their elementary school. And I can look no further than what's happened in Mohawk School District.
Right, watch that
To
unfold.
the point where there's a town that just had a school burned down, and they're gonna spend $6 million to build a school for, what, 50 students?
Well, and this gets back to something that I've been talking about for a while, is that all of this stuff really gets to the root of what it means to be a town and how that is kind of changing. And we have to figure out a way to grapple with that. And I mean, I get your point about not wanting to give up the elementary school, but you really have to sit down, everybody who's gonna sit down and discuss it, and, you know, and I think acknowledge up front, look, this is going to change some things. And if you don't wanna do it, and if you don't have, the stomach for
Well,
it,
they're done.
then maybe you shouldn't be involved in it.
If you wanna really look at regionalization to save money, you have to look at what the assets and maintaining of assets.
Sure.
Yep.
They won't do it, just like the Frontier budget this past year. The one problem I have with the Frontier budget is that they took the capital portions out of the budget because they didn't want the budget to fail.
Actually, there was, interesting
was
you
a
say
There
it.
was a
Discussion
discussion
on
about,
that.
that was one, and that was one of the
That was-
points that was
Okay.
brought up.
From a committee member.
Yes,
That's
same,
right.
that,
Right,
like,
so
we took
that's-
they
that's a
used the tennis
very-
court as an example. We
Right.
pulled that out because we
valid-
knew if we put it in there, somebody's gonna look at it and say, whoa, wait a minute. And it was a political decision, and I appreciate that, and I get it, because in the end, and I think I made a point along these lines, we can talk about all of this and we can work out all these details, but in the end, then you have to deal with the political battle of getting whatever you've agreed on passed. You know, you can come up with all the fantastic formulas.
So if you had a true working relationship, why wasn't that talked about in the beginning? It should've been brought to the town and said, look, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it.
Right.
That's not what was said. It was not what was said.
It
And I
definitely
take-
can't,
and
it
I
was
can take
explained
exception
differently.
with that.
Yeah, it was
If you
explained
want- if you
differently
want-
the other
If you
night.
wanna have an open, if you wanna have an open and frank discussion, throw it on the table, don't try to hide behind something.
It was interesting, two of the comments that stuck in my mind, one was about the regional, the word, and the branding of it, or connotation associated with it. And then the other point of discussion, Tom, that was brought out of that meeting also included a credibility gap, and the recognition of a credibility gap. I thought that was a pretty frank comment, for the first time in a long time. So, it was very interesting to hear that. So, go ahead.
It might, I'm wondering if, I think we should probably note that the superintendent went to the Frontier School Committee last Tuesday night and requested that they use their own stabilization funds to purchase the student van that had previously been brought to town meetings, and also to fund the other security updates that were not already approved by the town meeting. So I think it's probably worth mentioning that they've funded those 2 items.
But there was a lot of discussion around how to deal with capital and.
So basically, they came up with an extra, whatever the amount of money
They ended
was.
up with a surplus.
They ended up with a surplus,
And they
moved the
shifted that.
surplus to their stabilization,
Right.
and funded those 2 items from stabilization. I know there's this
So, I guess,
question on surplus.
Yeah.
you're- so are they gonna use the money that was appropriated from Whately and Conway?
Not anything above the 2 security items that were voted by the town of Deerfield and supported by the town of Sunderland in its vote for the 2 security items.
I know what you're saying, because it's like, you're saying that, okay, we've found a surplus, we're gonna steer that towards it, but then we're still pulling in the money
They're
from the
fund-
2
they're-
towns.
They're funding the difference.
They're not-
Again, my concern is that, and I know this will sound confusing, but the Frontier Regional School District should have between 3% and 5% of their total budget and revenue reserves. okay? They have less than, like, I think last time it was like 1%, okay? They should be holding on to that money in case they have a problem. In case they have a problem, so they can pay for something that comes up out of the unexpected.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that too, one of the discussions, and there was one gentleman on one of the finance committees, if I'm not mistaken.
And well, David, I gotta stop you 1 second, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Also, if they use money out of the E&D account, they still have to ask the town's
First.
approval to do so.
Okay.
They have to ask for that approval to do so.
If it's out of the E&D.
If it's out of the E&D. And typically, when they present a budget to the towns, they say the same thing we do in their warrant articles, that they're gonna use the raise and appropriate from the towns and they use money out of the E&D. Part of their budget comes out of the E&D. Part of their budget comes out of the E&D every year.
Yes,
They get town meeting approval to use that E&D. How do they get our town meeting approval to use that E&D this year?
To see if it's, out of E&D or if it's somewhere else. But I hear you. Statutes requires it either be returned or above a certain value,
well, in excess of a certain percentage.
excess of a certain percentage, but also the member
You still
towns have to
ask,
approve.
they still have to ask for approval to use money out of E&D. It's no different than us having money in stabilization.
Yep.
We have to ask the town permission to use stabilization and/or free cash.
Chapter 71, I'm gonna read it.
It's just, again, see where it came from. Pretty straightforward, and remind them that that's, if that's the case, that's how it's gotta be done. Pretty easy, that's pretty easy.
Because they said they had money
It's just a
returned, so
straightforward
if they used it, if they
Surplus
used it out of their budget, that's fine. They don't have to tell us how they use their money, that's fine.
Correct.
If they're using their money now because they went through they closed out their books
They used surplus, moved it to stabilization, and then funded these items from
through
stabilization.
E&D, that's different. They have to seek approval to do that.
If that's the mechanism, you're absolutely right. So hopefully,
How the heck do I know that crap?
it's been around a long time.
But it's true, they have to do
It
that.
hasn't changed, right? It hasn't changed in a long time.
They have to ask permission to use it.
Absolutely right,
They have to ask town meeting approval to do so.
correct.
Maybe we need to talk to Donna McNichols again.
Or the new business manager to make sure
well, that's what I
that,
was
because you got a
thinking.
business manager who's not coming from ed. The business manager is not from an ed background, just from a municipal background, but not an ed background, just to make sure that these kinds of nuances.
And I
aren't
could be
taken.
wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. If, the way you express
on
it,
it.
they closed out the year, there extra money that got turned over to E&D, then they voted to take the money out of E&D.
Yeah.
If they voted to take money out of E&D, then they have to ask our permission.
Right.
Not ours, but the town's.
Towns.
So would we have to put something on, if you follow that path, and then they realize, okay, we've gotta do it, then
Yeah.
we have to do something on the town meeting?
Mm-hmm.
So we let them know that if that's the case.
If that's the path.
You
We
need to
haven't-
get, right, we need to get
I
something
wanna
on
go
the
back
warrant
and
for
look at
that.
the,
Yeah, good point, timing in that sense.
it was
Yeah.
about, it was about 4 years ago that they established the stabilization fund, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. So
I
I'd like
mean-
to see how that was established.
You can't use money without a town meeting approval.
Well, we discussed like a capital stabilization.
As a
and there was-
mechanism, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And to be fair, I know what a challenge it is to get a capital stabilization done at the municipal level. So
Yeah.
I can sympathize with, but, we kinda said, if you end up with a surplus at the end, take a percentage of that and put it in your stabilization fund. But then wasn't there discussion about whether they actually had a capital stabilization? I think they only said they had
Stabilization.
just a stabilization as opposed to a capital
Correct.
stabilization.
And it was part of that discussion.
So they'd actually need to establish one.
Right.
And then there was a point brought up by a gentleman, I think he was on the finance committee from one of the towns, I think fairly new, who came from manufacturing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he brought up which was a very good point, he said, you've got preventive maintenance that you
Mhm.
need to factor in, so that like if you go and fix, and he brought up a good example, like, if I change the oil in my car, I know I'm gonna prevent a major problem down the road. And how that needs to be grappled with too.
operating versus capital.
Yeah,
That was, I think,
right,
part of
that's
the
more,
discussion.
right, that's more of like an operating, exactly.
That was
All right,
a
I'll follow up on that.
Thank you, Margaret.
wide-ranging discussion there.
Yep.
Other board updates. We are in the throes of the fall. We've got a position now filled downstairs in the treasurer collector's office. And it being the fall, as a prerogative of the board over the next 6 or 7 weeks to bring department heads in for semi-annual update and then plans for the winter,
It's that time.
right? Talk about highway, talk about fire, talk about police, talk about all that. Again, we're essentially nearing the mid-year mark. So we can get a schedule, Margaret, over the next couple of next half a dozen Mondays?
Sure.
That'd be
Yes, I
great.
will.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Okay, that's really it for board updates that I have. You guys have anything else? Anything else?
DEP letter?
Oh, yeah, we actually got today,
in your packets.
6 weeks ago, we sent a correspondence of, with a couple of questions to the DEP about the Sugar Bush Meadows well extraction permit. There were a couple of areas in the permit application that we had areas of concerns with. The first was the total volume being requested. And in the permit application that was sent, it was described as a municipal permit, municipal source. And the second was 100,000 gallon day referral. And that it raised a red flag. Our correspondent here from the DEP, well, we have time to digest, but it's 2 talking points. The first being they have applied for, and DEP is working with a 40,000 gallon, i.e. project-specific water extraction. The second piece is there was a comment in the application about verbal commitment for fire suppression availability from the Sunderland Water District. And that, of course, raised a red flag with us as well. And the clarification here from the DEP, if you can call it clarification, is that they have been informed by an official of the Sunderland Water District that there is no fire protection agreement at this time. I think that's really important to bear in mind. So we raised the questions, we have these clarifications, and as this permitting process continues to work through, it's important we're diligent that nothing quick happens, I guess is the best way to put that. So the at this time part is an area of concern, certainly in my mind, and the fact that there is a 40,000 gallon GPD, gallons per day, understanding at the DEP level is important as well. So
Can
again,
I, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a request that we send a letter to the Sunderland Water District requesting all votes pertaining to the Sugar Bush
that's good. Yeah,
applications
good point.
as a board.
Yeah, why not? I think that's a great idea. You can have that, and we can sign it and send it forward.
All votes and minutes, yep.
Again, associated with the project and the development of the
Correct.
site. Good point. Okay, that's it with respect to updates from the board. Margaret, you have anything?
Well, been a lot of focus on regional EMS, but one solar update. Western Mass Electric is moving forward with site assessments on the 2 parcels. And then that shouldn't be a very long process, but Western Mass Electric could determine that more thorough investigation is needed at one or both of the parcels. We're hoping that's not the case because time is really of the essence at this point to get an application submitted to planning board and approved before the end of the year. It's very, very, very tight now.
September.
Yeah.
It's very tight, but the planning board special permit process is, can be lengthy, so it could be lengthy.
You raise a really good point. It's interesting to see the utilities are having more and more third-party reviews of some of these projects, even medium-sized projects, of which this qualifies. Very, very interesting. Okay. Sunderland Tricentennial is 2018. We got 5 years to have a plan.
It's a good time to start.
throw a party.
Time to start.
So it's prerogative of the board. What do you think?
It's not 2015, it's 2018.
Yeah, we made a mistake. I fixed it up there. I'm sorry. It's a 5-year process, not a 3-year.
So over the next 30 days
5-year
or so, let's
Margaret?
come up with a charge.
I remember that when we talk about your your review.
I'll never forget it now, November 18.
Seventh inning.
November 18th, 2018.
17, 18.
Okay.
Right.
Well, 17, 18, but the tricentennial will be
Right.
2018.
Unless you want to move it up. On the almost tricentennial.
There you go.
Well,
So over the next month, we can come up with a basic framework and charge, maybe review the 250th, and then composition. Again, it's 5 years out, and it sounds like a long run, but
It'll be here
it
before you
goes,
know it.
it goes really
Yep.
quick. Okay,
so what's the timeline that you'd like?
30 days.
Okay, yeah.
Committee, mission
Committee and
statement. all that stuff.
Charge and,
Yep.
charge and composition.
I can throw another page up on the website for him.
Not bad, not bad.
You know?
Okay, we have a fall festival coming up. We have a couple of permit requests in front of us. One is for a one-day liquor license application, and the second is for a banner. This is actually the second time we'll be using our banner application, banner permit. Again, I think these are both pretty standard stuff soon enough for us, certainly the one-day liquor license is. We have a malt beverage only request. They've applied for insurance to be issued upon certification. It's a nonprofit. You have comments from the
At
chief?
this time, I'd like to make a motion to grant the one-day liquor license and waive the fee.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded, one-day liquor license for the fall festival with a fee that's waived. All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0. We also have a banner permit in front of us. And this, of course, if you look on the back side of the sheet, the second side, there's the template. So we've got a banner gonna span North Main Street over here by the corner store. And we have bucket truck and access to all that.
The highway super's working on that, trying to get a bucket truck.
If, let me know.
Okay.
Okay, we have a permit application in front of us, another one with a fee in front of it. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept and waive the fee.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. This is again a banner, it's gonna cross the street. Our policy and our permit are pretty straightforward. Has a size, has a material, has a duration, and permit application. Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0, please. Okay, so next up for us is gonna be a meeting tomorrow over in Whately at the Whately Center School.
Right next to the milk bottle.
The milk bottle, exactly.
Building next to the milk
Go
bottle.
to the milk bottle. Again, this continues our discussion with regional EMS. That's very important as we now have a finish line in place. And
Yes.
that's really important. I think having a finish line is gonna hopefully be the catalyst to break up the log jam, has been said in the past here in New England. Anything else?
Margaret, when's the bike ride coming through?
Thursday evening, this Thursday
Which one?
evening, the
Yes.
19th.
Over?
Or
the other one?
Berkshire to Boston.
Berkshire Bus.
That's gonna be this Thursday evening, behind the town office building.
So you'll be probably seeing a number of bicyclists in
Yes.
town.
Riding,
Thursday evening, they're
on
gonna
the
be,
roads.
Yeah, too,
they're gonna be
right?
camping out back, the
Yes.
back of town office building. They'll be, I think, getting either dinner or breakfast at the Congregational Church, right?
yes,
I think, the Bridgeside is doing a meal for them also, their breakfast, I think.
they are, yeah.
So it's actually something that's bringing a lot of people into the town of Sunderland.
It
so.
will, but beware of bicycles. There'll be more than usual on the road
Point.
on Thursday afternoon and Friday morning.
Good
Okay.
points.
If anybody wants more information, they go to our site's front page on the bottom left-hand, bottom right-hand side, and there's information out there for the Berkshire to Boston and the Clover Century one.
Oh, nice.
So under our upcoming events section, there's also a little bit of information about the Fall Festival out there as well, so,
Perfect.
in addition to their page.
The board has a warrant and correspondence to sign.
There's nothing else? Is there a motion?
Just one more comment about tomorrow's meeting. I think one of the things that I'm taking into that is keeping my eyes on the prize of what we kind of set out for, which was 24/7 paramedic coverage. And the goal being to improve the service and get rid of some of the problems that we've had.
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm focusing on.
You raise a great point, Dave. We're at that stage now where We've agreed on option 4. We've agreed on so much to have it fall apart now.
Right.
It would be just a tragedy.
And, you know, why have a call take longer than it needs to respond? And again, I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again, it's one of these things that, you know, when you look at just pure raw numbers, you think, oh, wow, we're spending more money for this. But it's one of those services that you don't think about until you need it. And when you need it, you really want it to work and respond.
Good points.
That's-
So I'll keep my head out of the rose box and put it in the fiddly,
There you go. I like
so
it.
that we can maintain a
Oh, boy.
we can maintain a sonar course through the
There you
fall.
go.
Yeah, the train can
Nice.
stay on the track, right? The
Nice.
eyes will
I
remain
think-
on the
I thi-
prize.
I think we've just exhausted the analogies tonight.
Well, then,
Oh, we're gonna have to find more.
Bet you don't know what a rose box is, though.
it's the part the antenna sits in.
No?
A rose box on a ship?
No idea.
It's down the bilge.
Oh.
In the fiddly
The
Oh.
fiddly.
is the highest point on the ship.
Oh, there you go.
See, just like school, isn't it, guys?
Just like school. Awesome. All right.
Quiet there.
This
Well,
is
we can discuss where the term the bitter end came from, if you like. That I do know. For a little
Scott gets the
nautical
bottom
history.
of his beer glass, and there's just a few bitters left.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's actually the end of the rope.
Oh,
That's
okay.
exactly
The
what.
end of the rope is
Oh.
the
End of the
bitter
rope.
end.
It was the Charmin of its
There is
day.
no ropes on a ship. There's just line.
This is fascinating. Could you please add this segment to every meeting? No, it's very good.
A little
Word
nautical
origins.
adjourn.
Word
Motion to adjourn.
Etymology today.
We have a single
Second.
motion to continue.
No,
Oh, it's adjourned.
adjourn.
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0, please. Call us out at 7:47, just because that's the plane we needed for the discussion.